Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to how to efficiently manage tasks in design and construction. Today I'll take you through some feedback from the AEC industry. My name's Pete Allenson. I'll introduce myself properly in a moment. But if you do have any questions about today's session, please save them for the chat and we'll answer them at the end in a brief Q&A. As I said, my name is Pete Allenson. I've enjoyed 14 years working in architecture, engineering and construction. And in that time, I've learned a lot about what it takes to manage project tasks. I've learned that companies find a lot of routes to satisfy this, and it's a huge administration task. At the start of my career, this was working on live projects. And during the latter part of my career, I spent a lot of time, 4 or 5 meetings a week with businesses, architecture firms and construction companies who are experiencing those pains on project tasks today in 2018. Just a brief agenda about what we're going to cover today. I'll briefly mention a bit about my company, Nuforma, and our main focus is Nuforma Project Center. Then a little about why we have found success in this market, project information and why it should be embraced. After that, we'll look at today's focus during the demonstration, followed by a demo and a QA at the end, as mentioned. So a bit about the state of the industry. The AEC industry is unique, and the success of a project typically hinges on how well project teams work and share information together. We hear a lot about collaboration in a minute, and the problem is the lack of easy and quick visibility to project information wherever it resides. Bridging the connection between all parties that are working together, working on a project, whether they be in the office or on the field. There are lots of third-party task management solutions on the market. These are application-based systems. They can look great and they do a great job. I'm sure some of you are using them today, but they don't relate that information to a project context. They're not centralizing that information for everybody to look into one place at the same time. This definitely becomes inefficient to manage. And that is the challenge. Hitting milestones is the main subject we'll probably cover at the start of today. But you're all here because you experience these challenges on projects. If you ask your team to appoint tasks, it becomes time consuming and inevitably ends up with them finding workarounds. Workarounds that usually end up with an email being sent and all the team being CC'd in. This doesn't appoint anyone to manage that task, and regardless of how the company manages workflows, people just simply find workarounds. If you could create an honest ROI for your business, you would see huge costs, not only in time, but project delays, and I'm sure you have experience with this. This is standard in the AEC industry now. A lot of people I speak to suggest that they believe there must be solutions out there that can make them more efficient in managing tasks, and in turn is going to start to allow them to hit milestones and protect the costs. So a little about Nuforma. We pioneered project information management in 2004. We provide architects, engineers and contractors, some owners, with software that makes them more effective as they organize project data and collaborate as a team to manage construction projects from inception to completion. The software, MPC, connects project information silos. It eliminates waste, promotes best practice, and maximizes profitability to enhance our customers' reputation. To mention some of our customers, you can see here a list of people you may work with, peers in your industry that already utilize Nuforma as a solution to bring together their global applications, people working all around the world, specialists, parts of their team working together in one platform with one true identity of information. And feedback from those companies has provided us with some statistics on managed tasks in Nuforma. And we believe this is evidence of why people use our system well. We centralize all these tasks into one place, and you can see there emails is still prevalent. We'd love to see more transmittals and record copies managed, but many millions of actions are created. Transmittals is the example. From experience, from my own experience, this practice can be at best a traditional management of this can be a few minutes. It's hard to find afterwards, and if you're trying to hit a deadline on a Friday, doing a transmittal is the last thing you're going to think about, although they're very necessary. So Nuforma allows the filing and searching of a transmittal to be just a couple of clicks. So just today's focus, we're going to, you people are here today to listen, and I get regular feedback on task management. A lot of people know how important it is to connect this information digitally. They see how staying on top of those tasks will benefit them in the long run in practice. Experience has shown me, and in meetings, it has shown a lot of you, I'm sure, that this is not always achievable. Nuforma has spent 14 years perfecting our solution, and today I'm going to guide you through why millions of actions are given project context on a daily basis and how to efficiently manage those tasks on your project. So I'm just going to switch over to a demonstration just now in our environment. I hope you can all see this okay. I've gone straight to Nuforma's homepage, and I talked about centralizing information, and actions was specifically here today to talk about task management. So if I click on this action item here in the homepage, it's going to take me to a list of all actions on this project. Wherever they be, wherever on the project they are, they're going to be managed in this environment. And I can just click, and I can look at this relevant action in a very traditional method, as you can imagine, and I can see all that information in there. This particular action is to address the site plan review comments, and it's been appointed and assigned to people. But if I go back to that homepage, I might want to look at, just from a top-down view, I might want to flip through some of the actions centralized on Nuforma in this project, and I might want to see some supporting documentation. I might want to see the context. I might want to see related information, as in this action was part of a client meeting, or I might want to just create a new action. This is the traditional way of doing it. I can click in to identify a new action in Nuforma, and I would fill that in, and I would fill in that relevant information. I would attach documents, I would attach people, I would assign it to people. Again, the usual method that you would use for creating an action. But I want to simplify this, and today I want to improve efficiency. So I go back to the email, and I click on this email here in Nuforma's tab in Outlook. I can click to File, Save As. And the first thing it's going to do is ask me what project it's related to. So I just click. It's going to associate it to a project in Nuforma because our information is centralized. And in this case, it's going to say, well, I think it could be any one of these things, quite a lot in this case. I probably should have picked a more refined list, but if I click on an action item, as that's what we're discussing, Nuforma is then going to go through that email, and it's going to take all that information and create that action. So in this case, I can say, right, okay, Bob Welder, I want to send you something for a review, and I want to appoint it to you. And I might, in this case, I might say, right, okay, I need to send it to the whole site team or discipline. So I've got the options to do that. In this case, I'm just going to send it through the Nuforma contract directory to the site team and press OK. I'm going to assign it to them in the next 3 days. This needs to be reviewed. And as you can see, Nuforma now has all the information enough to create that document. Any relative, if there was an attachment associated to that email, that would always retain that attachment against that. And here you can see it's created an email to the team with all the actions in. It's all the relevant information, the text of the job, and I can send and file with Nuforma, and I send and file that action item. And as soon as I do that, that item is then going to be centralized on the project. So if I go to all actions and I go to created today, so I've gone to that central area, and you can see that Bob Welder review action is now centralized with all the relevant information in that environment. So that's allowed us very quickly through that email function to get that notification into the system and be managed centrally by everyone to view. Later on, I'll show you a bit about how you could do that through a web client or a mobile phone or other methods. So if I go back, I'm going to give you another example of how Nuforma can easily manage transmittal. Would be probably a good example. It's one of the most popular things to do in Nuforma. So if I go up to search here and I search for purlin, Nuforma is going to scan through, as it does, all the actions in the system, all the documentation, and in this case, it's found a document which is a DWG, and inside that DWG, the information resides that this is related to purlin, and I'm going to say that it's a transmittal. So once I click transmittal, it's going to go through the same process that we did with the act. It's going to scan through, and it's going to say, right, okay, I need to send this document off with a transmittal to Bob Welder. You'll be used to this action, and in this case I can say send via, and I'm sending it via Info Exchange, and I can also customizable these fields, but I can say for your review and comment. It's got the description of what's in there, the associated file, and all that information is in there. So I just put for review and I send that off. And I create a transfer. So the first thing it's going to do is say, where do I want to save that information to? You'd set that up first time, press OK. And as that document goes off to Bob Welder, what Nuforma is going to do a few things in the background. So all those tasks that you don't want to do, the things we talked about in our presentation, are done. The transmittal form, for example, is completed for you and saved centrally on the project, obviously branded as others do, branded to your information, to and from what was in that information, as you'd expect from a transmittal. So I want to go back now and I want to show you what happened in that transmittal. So if I go back to Nuforma, again, I'm on that central project, so I can flip between the projects I'm working on, but I can flip to Alpen Grove. I can click on transmittals, and then it's going to show me all centralized transmittals. And in this case, I'm going to go to that one at the top there, and that transmittal is there. And if I right click, I can say view form when I see it right at the top. Always struggle with that one. And again, that's an RFI transmittal in that case. So I can go back and look at any transmittals on that job. I can search for any of those items. I'm going to switch projects now because I want to go to one that's got some information in it relative to today. I'm going to show project summary. So project summary is an environment where I can review actions on this job in a report, and Nuforma can do a lot of reporting around task management. In this case, it's a high level what's going on with information, so you can see the status of an action or a task and the related information. So really good for project manager to see what's going on in one simple report on a daily basis for that project. You can click into these are all links, so I can click into the action or I can click into the relevant information. You can see the BIM execution plan is waiting for someone else to manage that task at the moment. The great thing about all this information, if I go back to our Alpen Grove project, is I can go to the Nuforma timeline. And the great thing about the timeline is that I can see all of those actions in one place. So I can see actually everything that's happened on the project on that day. So you can see the transmittal we did, the purlin for review, the emails that we sent, any action items. So everything, all you have to do, these are everybody in the business, externally, internally shared, can see all that information in one place. So all of that information is relevant. You can see that all of this information, everything we're doing is making it very easy for you to get to that information without having to manually improve your task management. You don't have to manually input any information to get to this point. And that's the crucial thing with Nuforma. And that's why so many of our customers see that value. So if I go back, lastly, I'm going to show you how we manage RFIs in and out. So if we go to RFI management. Here you can see that the RFIs, I'm going to show you the other way around. RFIs are managed in this environment. So I can look at any of RFIs. I can see the overdue ones, the open ones. I can select between different ones. You'd probably have a lot more than me, I would think. And I can go back to this environment and I can see the relevant information, the change log. The change log would be an environment where if people have started to communicate about that RFI, all the communication would be underneath. So if I go back to email, as we did at the beginning, and I click on one, so I'm going to click on Bob's email here, you can see it's got a drawing. And again, I'm going to do that file save as. I need to pick the project again. And if I go into that again, it's going to say, I think it could be this. So in this case, I'm going to say an RFI. So an RFI, obviously, I want that to go into a workflow. I want that to become a managed request for information. Nuforma has populated all that information as you'd expect. I can associate it to people. I can give it context. I can send it to people. So in this case, I'm sending it on to someone to be managed, forwarded for review. If I press OK, next thing it's going to ask me a bit of information about the contents. In this case, I'm happy with the contents. And the next thing it's going to do is it's going to start adding that to that workflow. So I can say again, my friend Bob Welder. Bob gets a lot of emails from me. I'm sure he's somewhere upset that I never work with him. I can set a due date for that project just a little way in the future, and I can press forward for a review. So quickly from an email, that information, that RFI, the document, the associated information has been logged against that project context because it's been centrally logged as an RFI against Nuforma. The document is created, which is also saved. It's saved into our system. So you can go back to the system and then see the relevant RFI for that day. And of course, create reports if you need to about RFIs. So very quickly, I can output a list to Excel of the RFIs on the project for someone if they need to review that. Again, branded and customizable as you would see fit. Again, the value is I know from experience managing that process can take a long time. Nuforma, by managing that for you, is obviously mitigating the risk of mistakes happening because it's gone through a very easy process. And again, you can report on that information at all times. One thing I didn't show you actually, which is a great place to see, is all those transfers are managed. So if I go into all the transfers we've done, you'll see a few at the top there, the 4 reviews that we've done, the Perlin 4 review, and any tests. And if I click onto any of these, I can see when it was created, and I can also see when people downloaded it and if they downloaded all the relevant information. The value is huge for this. If you send that information off to an external party, you want to be sure that you know when they opened that document, which Nuforma has given you that audit trail of information when that information goes off. Now, lots of simple ways, everything's centralized. There's other tasks that we can manage in Nuforma if possible. But just now, I'm just going to pop back to the presentation that we have open and show you some of the other bits of Nuforma. In this case, this is our web client. So the web client, I think I have the web client live open as well, but the web client is, oh, hold on, there you go. Sorry about that, everybody. You can see in the web client, I can actually log in and centrally see all the actions on this project. I can see my projects, I can see the file emails, and I can see all the information I need on the project. The next thing is the mobile app. So Nuforma mobile app, I can click on the projects, the centralized emails, and the action items again. And you can see on the right-hand side over here that all the actions have been a point of time. They're very easy to do, very natural way of managing. You click the plus, you write out what you want to do and who you're sending it to, and Nuforma is going to manage that. And of course, once you do it on the mobile, it's also going to save that information back to the centralized Nuforma client back in the office so that you don't have to go back to the office and rewrite that up. You just do it once on the train on the way back from site or when you get time to do that. So as we come to the end of the demo, I'm just going to click into QA, and I'm going to have I'm going to open up my chat box here to see if we have any questions. with my colleague Rene at the moment, so he's just going to read out the questions that we have been given.
Is project summary related to action items?
So Rene said there, project summary is, if project summary is related to action item, it is. So it's surfacing all the action items as a method of exposing those answers and the information in the project summary.
When you send a document for review, is it possible to include a due date?
So someone's asked there, when you send a document for review, can you include a due date? Yes, you can click a due date when you're appointing it to someone. And that's what's going to create in the project summary that field, that information of when information is managed.
Does Nuforma capture the audit trail for transmission?
Yeah, I think I covered that briefly. We track everything in Nuforma, so there's always a report or an audit trail of the actions you do in Nuforma. I can go back and show that if you like, 2 seconds. So if I go back into my demo environment here, close this down, open the client. So yeah, we talked a lot about transmittals, and I showed how in an info exchange, I can go back and I can see the full history of what's gone on with one of those transfers. So if in this case I'd go to transfers and go to a little more in depth, you can see the full history below. I'll try and find one with a bit of history. There you go. There's a nice big long one. So 29 files were published in this. The transmittal was modified. The information was background uploaded. And if this was sent off to 10 different people, you would see when those 10 different people downloaded, the date and time of when that information was managed. Yeah, any more questions, Rene?
Yes. How do you receive the comments back and collate them from other reviewers to track them for the same document?
Yeah, so I'll just go back. So you were asking the question, when people comment on an action, how do we review that process? Is that right?
How do you receive the comments back and collate them from other reviewers to track them for the same document?
Yeah, so if we go back into RFIs, and I click on the RFI that we wanted to discuss, and we viewed the form, the information below is received, and that's where we would manage that. Was where we would manage the comments so that everyone can see that information. I hope that answers your question. It's always difficult when it's a one-way conversation. I'm much better with my two ways or face-to-face conversations. But okay, so I think that's all the questions that we had. If you have any questions, I think you'll have my details. You can reach out to me directly to ask me further. Obviously, I'm more than available to answer any questions on action items. There is a lot more to Nuforma if you want information on any other parts of the solution. But thanks for joining us today, and I'm happy to answer those questions in the future. Thank you.